All right, Raf, thanks so much, man, for being part of the podcast. And
I
here
appreciate
we're
it,
just gonna
man. It's
talk
an
about your
honor.
journey, man. Like
Yeah.
maybe you can start. And you told me like when you're messaging that you haven't really shared your spiritual journey. And I just wanna ask like when did you start even like thinking about spirituality? Like maybe you can tell us your
Wow.
story.
Well, I was raised Catholic, so there's always been that the urge or that drive to find something deeper. Always questioning how God is like, and not to put down religion or anything, but from my personal experience in Catholicism, I just never found. I never got that fulfillment I was searching for when it came to answering the truth about God. It seemed like nobody could answer that. Of course, it's such a vast energy to talk
Mm-hmm.
about. Of course, nobody could define it. It's just that I had a lot of questions about being raised as a Catholic. And after I probably my teenage years, I felt that religion had failed me because of the things that I was going through in life. That I started to look into Christianity, or what they actually call being a Protestant. Because
Mm-hmm.
Christianity was actually split into two, right? You had the
Yeah, yeah.
Protestants and you had the Catholics. So I tried looking into what people in the Philippines these days call Christianity. I saw the different type of praying, the different type of worshiping.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I also looked into Buddhism. I looked into Judaism and Rastafari, Islam. I pretty much researched a general idea
Yeah.
about the various religions and the various dogmas. And I personally came to a conclusion and found out that they all seem to be talking about one higher power. And
Exactly.
growing up in Norway, we were always taught that the Samis, the natives of Norway, they have 128 words for snow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of texture it is, but it's still
Yeah.
snow. So it dawned upon me in my mid 20s that could we be talking about the same thing? Because I was traveling, I was going to around Europe, 2011, 2012, and I actually sat in taxis discussing religions with the different taxi drivers there. So you could see the different religions they all pertain to. And
Yeah.
it was especially this one guy who drove me to the airport. He opened up to me about his religion, Islam, and I opened up about my perspective about all the religions. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, a 45-minute drive from central Amsterdam to the airport, Schiphol, uh, he he ended up in tears basically, because I opened up to him how I could see that everything seemed to be pointing to a higher power. And in doing so, he basically realized that day that it was all about love. So I
Yeah.
got the taxi for free, and I came back to the Philippines after that, and my grandfather died, and I felt like I had to pray now and compensate hanging out with him in my mind by the ocean because he was a fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
And then for some reason, my surfing improved. I was sitting there in the ocean one time, and I don't know how to explain this. This is going to sound really weird, but I felt a conversation happening. I could not hear, not listen.
Yeah.
I could feel a conversation happening between me and my grandfather. And after that, the way I looked at the ocean, my level of surfing just increased basically like overnight. And I kept going out to the ocean to look for my grandfather. And more than anything, more than my whole life, I felt that I was closer to him than ever. And I had this guiding voice in my head whenever I would go around in the city, whenever I would listen to it. And up till now, I still have it, but it's not as strong as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I had this weird experience in the ocean, and I came to the city. I was just like dumbfounded because I felt like I found like call this like the Matrix. He finally sees the Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Hello,
Yeah. You're still there, Raf. I can hear you.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Do you still see me?
I can see you now. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Till what point did you hear? All good, man.
No, you were still talking about you going back to the city.
Yeah, yeah. So from that experience I had, well, having that conversation with my grandfather or whoever it was, I came back to the city and I immediately talked to one of those spiritual healers or these uh, what do you call them? These shamans, our local
Yeah.
shamans, basically, the ones with third eye. And they kept telling me, three of them, they kept telling me that there's someone watching over me. An old soul was watching over me. So from there, I started believing that, we have our ancestors in our back. Black Panther came out, and I just picked a lot of ideas and perspective from there that I could apply to basically what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And then from that moment after, I just remember I didn't want the things that I used to want before, like the nice cars, the big house, lots of money. More than anything, if I could choose what to have, would be, of course, unlimited food supply and peace of mind.
Yeah.
That would
Yeah.
like that conquers anything. And then from there on, I always I still pray at night every night. Ever since I was a kid, I was raised Catholic, but I changed the word God to universe.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to find a more universal language for who I was praying to, so that the prayer could be passed on and not having to be all dogmatic, basically. So
I love that. I love that. And
yeah,
maybe you can share, Raf. Thanks so much for sharing that. I love the whole you had
yeah,
this like epiphany and like sort of an awakening. And for you, like I mean, because I was also raised Catholic. Like I was actually
yeah.
raised Opus Dei, so very
Oh,
intense, you know.
Latin.
But yeah, and like, but I'm
Yeah,
curious
yeah.
about the evolution of prayer for you. Like, cause like remember, like
Oh,
with me, it was always asking stuff. Eh. But like
yeah,
now I feel
yeah,
like it's not really asking, it's more like having a conversation, like the
right.
listening part. No one really taught me that. Eh. But I'm curious
Yeah,
about
yeah.
your side. Like how was it evolved
Oh,
throughout the years?
oh. Well, the first prayer I was taught was my guardian angel or Our Father. There you
Mm-hmm.
go. That's a classic one. Our Father.
Yeah.
It's a very Christian prayer, and I still pray it up till now. It's just that it evolved to different words, basically. Like, for example, Our Father in heaven is now our Creator
Yeah.
outside the universe.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, may we respect your name. May your may your creations come to fulfillment through our manifestation and how
Yeah.
we create our surroundings, basically. So it's still our Father. It's just that the meaning of the words are different now for me. Um, and oh, that's another thing that I forgot to share. Catholicism, if you notice, when they pray, it's very solemn. It's very uh, trans-ic,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like Our Father, Holy Mary, Mother of Grace. And
Yeah.
then you have
Yeah.
the Christianity, which is like all praise, like, oh Lord, free me
Mm.
now, right? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
basically found a connection in both of them. Being raised like meditative in Catholicism, how so solemn and asking for forgiveness, please feel sorry for me, maawa kayo, versus the oh Lord, praise you, and like throwing out the energy rather than receiving energy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found a way to combine both of them because like it is giving and receiving of energy in the end,
It is.
and
It
I
really
think
is.
it's applicable to whoever notices the difference. Because if you're very solemn and very transic, you're not gonna appreciate the whole praising thing. But if you're super extrovert, you're gonna love a Christian church and
Yeah.
how they express
Yeah.
themselves and listen to that music. So I think it's to each in his own. Like I said earlier, I was raised knowing that the psalmist said 128 words for snow. I also think that there are over 7 or maybe just 7 billion ways to communicate with whoever you believe created you. And if you don't believe that anything created you, then there's something that you must follow, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And if
For
not,
sure.
then
For sure.
it's just something there, and whatever guides you in life and makes you the best version of yourself that you could possibly be. I think that's the best thing for everyone.
I
I don't
love
think
that.
there's like a tailor made for anyone.
Exactly. And I like what you said about like just finding something that brings out the best in you, and
Yeah.
that helps you evolve. And I know you surf. We've talked about plant medicine, and just living near nature, and like
Yeah.
maybe you can share, like, I guess, your insights about all these experiences. Like surfing has a stoke, like being active, doing things that are good for your mind, for your body, being in meditation. Like
Yeah.
maybe you can share like some of the experiences, especially in the pandemic. And we met in La Union, and
Yeah. Yeah.
when things were still kind of like closed, but like we found community in stepping out of the city. So maybe you can share some of
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
insights.
Yeah, well, when you touch about the whole surfing and getting stoked, and you do something to get that endorphin or that dopamine rush that makes you realize things. I mean, someone told me once that Jack Johnson, the
Yeah,
musician, what he would do, he would surf big waves, and after that experience, he would write a song. So basically you're, I guess the word for another word for stoke, another word for the dopamine rush that you get from doing your favorite hobby is basically it's a high.
it is a high
You
for
feel
sure.
euphoric, you're high. So in
Mm-hmm.
this high, when you're closer to God or closer to your creator, I think that you can find uh, uh, a connection where you can translate it through whatever your talent is, whether that be acting, writing, or painting. And during this high, you're more connected to the Akashic records or
For
whatever you want
sure,
to
man.
call it,
For sure. For sure.
So yeah, like with me when I'm surfing, attending your sound bath, for example, for me it breaks that barrier of just being that regular human that we're taught
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
We're taught to think in a certain way, but once you break out of it using that high, you basically see another perspective. And I don't know. I think most people that I know, it has helped them become better versions of themselves, which is always, I mean, not always, which is more often than not, trying to become more loving. It's always
Yeah.
about becoming more loving. The highest version of yourself that I've seen from other people, their highest self is always more loving. So if you just keep on getting more love, then I don't think you can do that much wrong if you're very conscious about that you're aiming for love to spread that.
I totally agree. And I think like that brings me to like a question for you about because you act, and acting is a craft, and it's a lot of giving, it's a lot of sharing, it's a lot of
Yeah,
actually people watching you, and you sharing your energy with other people. And I
yeah,
mean, there are always these assumptions about showbiz and celebrity culture, but I feel like getting to know you, Ren, like even the in all of our sound baths or conversations, like I feel like you emanate a certain vibe, and it's like it's very magnetic. And I'm curious about how you bring that energy to your work, because you're acting and long
right,
hours, and I'm familiar with that industry from the other side, from behind the scenes. But I'm curious about
right, right,
you maintaining this frequency in spite
right.
of being in a culture that's very go go go. You gotta like work long hours, and it takes a lot of, like, I guess, mental strength and physical
Yeah,
strength.
yeah,
Maybe you can
yeah.
share something about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, when it came to the long hours, let's talk about it physically first. The long hours, I really had to get used to that. My first taping day lasted for like 24 hours, and
Wow.
I was new to the industry. I didn't know how to speak Tagalog. I didn't know it was gonna last this long. I thought it was just like, like let's just shoot with friends. And I ended up leaving the set at 4 a.m. But I showed up at 2 a.m. to join the pull-up going to Laguna. So I
Wow.
was like so tired. I didn't know if I had the strength to keep doing this. I was gonna give up after my second week of taping, and then they said showbiz is really like this, and that's when I had to adjust. I started sleeping in between. I eventually, after years and years of being in this industry, I eventually learned to bring my own comfortable chair, own comfortable entertainment, my PlayStation, my books, my. I also brought a guitar because I wanted to learn how to play music. Your dumbbells, your workout, just make sure you're entertained all the time. And it took me 2 decades to learn how to manage this physically.
Wow.
But
Huh.
within a year, probably like 7 years ago, I also learned like this type of meditation where you can relax your whole body and mind in like less than 10 seconds. So I started using that on set. It's called the Silva method. I'm not sure if you're
Okay.
familiar with
No,
that.
no, no. Maybe you can
But
share more about that.
yeah, it's a technique by this guy named Jose Silva. I first read about it when I was like in grade 3. My mom was into these mental things, so
Okay.
I read about it. And Silva method is basically a technique. It's a meditation technique wherein it also involves self hypnosis.
Wow.
So basically, you associate, for example, your thoughts with number 3.
Okay.
You associate no thoughts with number 2, and you associate complete relaxation with the number 1. So once you've
Ah.
meditated and programmed your brain into 3 to 1, all you got to do now to reach that alpha state where you want to be when you're meditating, the alpha waves, is close your eyes and go 3, 2, 1. Like it
Wow.
helps you. It helps you program your mind into getting there faster. And I've been using that on the set. But the most effective thing on set physically is basically knowing what you're supposed to do. Basically, I mean, I
Yeah.
always have my lines down, so I'm ready anytime when they call me. So I'll basically sleep the whole day when I'm taping. If I'm not doing a scene, I'm sleeping. And then
Wow. Recovery.
mentally, yeah, and mentally, of course, meditation helped a lot because when it comes to acting, this is what I've realized that when you do certain actions, for example, I flip out, I get angry, I break stuff, right? And when the director says cut, my body won't be in a regular state. My whole body will still be shaking. When
Hmm.
I'm drinking the coffee, I will still be shaking because the body doesn't know the difference.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
So that's where it takes a big toll on you when the body thinks it's real and your mind knows it's fake, and then you go home without debriefing your mind, and then you're stuck in bed not knowing why you can't sleep tonight because you're filled with adrenaline. You haven't been able to calm yourself down. You haven't told your body, okay, this is just acting. This isn't real. So in the mental preparation, I just learned how to debrief after each day of taping because there was a time when I did theater. I did this play called Oedipus Rex, and you know
Hmm.
Oedipus Rex. He basically
Yeah.
murders his dad and marries his mom. So there was like a big psychological hindrance for me for like at least 3 months. I didn't talk to my parents, didn't talk to my friends. I was just isolating myself in the room, and then my mom asked me what was wrong with me, and I told her I have a hard time talking and opening up to you guys. And then I talked to this veteran actor in theater. His name is Jamie Wilson. He told me that I got to do something that Raph does, like something that Raph does that I know that only Raph does this, not my character.
Mm.
So the only thing that I could think of way back then when I was younger and I was into all these herbal remedies was to basically, you know, roll a J and smoke it because that's when I knew that this is Raph. My character would never do this. And then that's my way of debriefing. So after each taping day, that's what I do now. I debrief in some way or another so that I know that this is back to my old self again.
I
So
love
that's the
that.
physical and
The
mental side of it, I think.
debriefing. I love that term. And
Yeah.
since you just talked about plant medicine, and it's so big everywhere around the world. It's getting
Yeah, I agree.
legalized, decriminalized, psychedelics. Like I want to hear your thoughts about all of those. Like in terms of like how it's helping a lot of people with trauma, a lot of people with a lot of sickness, and just how it's like that stigma of it being bad was really part of I mean, honestly, I don't think a lot of people know about it. It was a propaganda, diba? And it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really like political propaganda. And I feel like now people are really seeing the benefits of all these plant medicine.
yeah. Well, we could start with by trying not to sound politically unethical.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for
Like
sure.
we all know it's a fact that it's all about money anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in our country, especially the Philippines, I mean, the Philippines, um, I don't think the government is ready to legalize it because they don't have their supply yet. Once they have
Mm-hmm.
their supply, once they have their fields where they
Yeah.
can grow, that's the only time they'll start legalizing it, because with legalization comes taxation. With taxation comes the monopoly, and with monopoly comes them taking over everything. So with that in mind, of course, they wanted to take over everything.
Yeah.
I believe that legalization is not the way, although I do support the whole movement, Formal and PCCS. I believe and I support their movement. I just don't believe that the way the people will benefit from legalization. Legalization would not benefit the people. I think decriminalization would give a bigger chunk to the people rather than the government. But in those terms also, it'll give a bigger room for abuse, of course. And I think the average Filipino, when it comes to using this herbal remedy, I don't think the people are ready, to be honest, because there's a lot of people who want to escape. Alcohol is still being abused. I believe that maybe in one way or another, we could regulate it medically.
Yeah.
I think it's really sad that it has such a bad perception. I've been traveling the different surf spots in the provinces, and I talk to 9-year-old kids, and they already know that it's medicine because their parents or their grandparents used it in their tea. I've been to the mountain provinces, and the elders there, they know that it's medicine. The majority of the people that we hang out with, the community of spirituality and being woke, they know that it's medicine. And everybody seems to know that it's medicine, but the government doesn't seem to want to give it to us. So I believe maybe that's because of profit, or because a lot of other companies or other profiting side hustles might suffer, because this plant might actually replace more than 50% of the medicines being bought for ailments,
No,
so
for
it's a
sure,
big
man.
mafia against. And more than anything, I think that people should do their own research. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. I've seen people go weird on it, and I think you should research what's for you. And as long as you're not harming anyone and you have your own way of healing your ailments, then we should accept each other's way of living.
Yeah, no, totally, totally. I really think that's important, people, even if you're interested in it, it benefits you. I think people need to realize that it doesn't work for everyone,
Yeah,
like whatever works for you, you gotta respect that. There are other forms of medicine, with meditation,
yeah.
exercise, and which brings me to like my next, actually, like this is probably the last question. It's a big question, and I don't
Okay.
mean to put you on the spot, but like I feel like I don't know, this might resonate with you. Like we've been going through a tough time in the past 2 years now, and I feel like, the whole 2 years felt, for me, it really felt like a squeeze, like
Yeah,
self, and yeah, it makes you like want to like dig deeper and like really ask yourself like pretty big questions. And like I'm
yeah.
I'm curious, like what in the past 2 years up to now, like what has come to mind in terms of like your mission, like what has been
Right,
your calling lately in terms of like,
right,
how to live your life. I don't mean
right.
this professionally. I don't mean this. It can be a very broad, universal answer, but I guess, like, I like asking myself, and you mentioned, Karina, that you studied Buddhism, and I I always remember this from my time in the monastery, like when they did this.
Right,
We had a class, and they were telling us to think about death, wherein
right.
death could come at any moment. But it's not there to scare you. It's just there to remind you that how do you want to live your life? And I'm
Yeah,
curious, like, and I know you kind of touched on it in the beginning of this conversation, but like maybe like you can expound on, what kind of life do you want to live now? Like, I mean, like, what is your
right,
mission now moving forward?
right. Well, let's start with I chase peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
More than anything. I just really want peace of mind and to be free to do whatever I want to do. Um, I guess in the world we live in, I have a lot of friends who are so spiritually woke. They just want to live in the forest or, live on a farm and stuff like that. I get that. I want to get there. But I also understand that we live in a system where that's pretty difficult to do unless you are financially free or you're at the bottom and you have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Being in between, like Michael Jackson's song, try to get under, you're stuck in the middle, you try to get above. A pretty young thing. Anyway, I'm babbling. It's difficult to balance the two. The way I want to live my life is to find a balance between stepping out of the system and having one foot inside the system. I respect the ones who want to completely out. I respect the ones who are completely in. But I believe that in this world that we live in, for me, if I were to fulfill my spiritual journey, it would have to be a balance between the two. That's also why I have my tattoos, basically. It's the beach life and the city life.
I love that. I love that.
So it's basically to balance out the two the two dimensions. That's what I like to call it. When it comes to the past 2 years that we've been living, in the beginning, I didn't really believe that it was going to go this far. I had no idea it was going to get this messed up. But in the beginning, I didn't really believe in it because I've always, for the past years of my life, I've been living it with like an alchemist mind. You know that story? I forgot who told it, but it's an ancient story about a man who had a horse, right? And then one day, the horse ran away from the village. So the villagers told him, "Whoa, how unfortunate." But then he said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse came back with 5 other horses. So the villagers were like, "Wow, dude, how fortunate." But then the guy said, "Maybe." Then his son tried to tame the 5 horses and broke his leg because of that. So the villagers were like, "That's unfortunate." But then the guy went, "Maybe." A week after, the army came to recruit for fighters, to recruit them to like fight for the country. But they couldn't get his son because he had broken his leg.
Mm.
So the villager said, "How fortunate." And then the guy said, "Maybe." So with that alchemist type of mind, with the pandemic, a lot of things stopped. A lot of supplies were broken, and basically everybody had to find a way to survive. Personally, I had to find some side hustles. I accepted roles that I wouldn't normally accept, but because, financial needs, I accepted them. And just like that story, I would say maybe it was unfortunate, or maybe it's not unfortunate, but that depends on the outcome. So everything we're going through now, this whole pandemic, how we've learned how to survive. If you've learned how to survive during this pandemic, what more when there's no pandemic?
Yeah.
Then you'll probably thrive, right? So with the pandemic, it's unfortunate. Maybe.
I love
finding
that.
side hustles and being able to survive a pandemic and possibly thrive when all this goes away, that's probably fortunate.
Exactly.
Maybe.
It is a mindset. I love that. I think that's so important because I think people, a lot of people tend to kind of just see things as bad or good when it's perspective. I mean, it's bad when you're in the moment, but like 5 years from now, we're gonna look back and say, "Hey, that was a challenging time, but we've learned we're better people, right?" And I think that's what I feel like the meditative experience, surfing and being in community, it reminds you that in my opinion, there's no really good or bad. It's just all intertwined and we're all learning, we're all evolving. And if you trust that things are just evolving the way they need to evolve, then life will be good. And you won't need to be stressed out. You won't need to like be so worried and so scared that life is working for all of us, not just for it's not against us, to be honest.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and that I want to share like a nugget of wisdom. Like,
Please.
I completely lost it, bro.
It's okay, man. It's okay.
What were we talking about right before this, man? You said something that triggered it.
Well, I was talking about the there's no bad, there's such thing as bad or good, you know, like
Yeah, there
things
you
are just
go. So basically, what I hacked out, like what I found within my spiritual journey that I would like to share,
please.
is that, you know, life has its ups and downs, and we've been taught to live life linear, like past going forward, right? But that's what I've noticed with my spiritual journey. I can only speak for myself, but this might be able to shed light on other people who are also going through stuff. It's that I actually seem to believe at this moment that the whole spiritual journey is no way near linear.
Mhm.
It's not linear, Nick. That's
It's
what I'm
really
sharing.
not,
I
man.
may sound crazy right now, but
No,
it's
no,
not
no, no.
linear. Like we're saying, this is good stuff happening, this is bad stuff. But how can the good stuff happen? And how can you recognize the good stuff if the bad stuff didn't happen first? You have to be
Exactly.
broken to be open.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. No, I love that, man. You're not crazy, bro. This is real. This is
yeah.
the truth. And I wish people would see that, like it I mean, I know some people will disagree with this, but it's a multiverse, man. Everything's
Yeah,
happening
exactly.
simultaneously. The good is
Yeah,
a trigger for whatever, the bad is all, it's all moving.
yes,
It's all evolution. I
exactly.
mean, like watch Interstellar, watch Inception, all
Yeah,
these things, I
yeah,
mean, these are movies that are made because there's some truth to it, right?
yes,
And
exactly.
if you've if you've experienced plant medicine, if you've experienced a very deep meditative state, you know that that's as real as waking life, maybe even more.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you gotta keep your mind open because this isn't it. For me,
Yeah,
this
nah,
conversation isn't it. We really had this
nah.
conversation before. We're just
Yeah,
like in this reality,
yeah,
in this moment, it's just continuing, right?
exactly, man. Like for example, 5 years from now, when we look back at this, after all that we've discovered, 5 years from now, I can feel that I look back at this and I'll cringe looking at
Mm-hmm.
myself thinking that I knew this back then. You know, like I look back 10 years from like the stuff I used to write in my posts and like, wow, how little I knew back.
Yep.
Like that was
Yep.
just surface level. So like it keeps evolving, you keep getting deeper. And I think like when you first find spirituality or find that little, what was that? There's a tendency to be like, yo, guys, I found this, check
Yeah.
this out,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
thinking about it.
Exactly.
But everybody has their own journey. And I'm not saying you shouldn't share your journey because it may be a catalyst to some, but for some, it's not a catalyst. Everybody
Yeah.
takes their time to find it. And I think that everybody comes around eventually. You just have to find the right catalyst and trying to like spit your light on everyone because you found it. I think sometimes that's when they'll call you crazy.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very careful about sharing what I've experienced because I've been put in that category, but I don't mind it. It's just that
Yeah.
I become really excited about stuff and I start sharing, but I keep forgetting to tell people that it's your own spiritual journey. I'm going through something now. I will gladly listen to you when you find something that you want to tell me, because
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
end, we're all just a big collective mind trying to just
We
share
are.
our
We
experiences.
are. We are. Bro,
Yeah.
thank you so much for
Thanks,
sharing. I
bro.
knew it was going to be interesting. And I
yeah.
knew, and it's just so really refreshing to listen to, like your stories and all your insights. And bro, thank you so much. I really, really
Yeah, thank you so
appreciate
much,
it.
man. I learned a lot too, man, by you triggering those questions.
Dude,
Kind of
thank you,
like
thank you.
help us
And
self activation.
this will happen again, I hope. I
Yeah,
think
for
there's still
sure.
so much to talk about.
Oh
But
yeah.
again, brother, thank you so much.
Hey, Nick,
Much
appreciate it.
appreciated. Take
Much
care, man.
appreciated too, man. You
Take
take
care,
care too,
man.
bro.
Thanks,
Okay.
bro. Have a good night.
Thanks, bro.
See you,
You
bro.
too, man. See you.